everyone, welcome to Tutorials by Decade. My name is Decade, and today we're gonna build a little world for our character. So just a recap of where we are right now. If we hit play, and it loads, our character moves and animates in every direction. But as you can see, all we have is just a little blue background to walk on. So we need to add a little bit for our character to move around in. Before I go into that, one thing I do want to explain real fast. This little game preview window, wherever you test your game, right now it's on free aspect. If you click on this, you'll see a whole bunch of different aspect ratios that you can do. Plus you can actually create your own. So like if you're going to be making this for high definition, click on that and that's what it should look like in high definition. 4K would be here. Right now we're actually just going to keep it in HD because honestly in most games, especially 2D games, there's not a huge jump between HD and 4K. One other thing that I want to point out, you have this little scale here where you can like zoom in, zoom out. You also have play focused, play maximized, or play unfocused. These are just like if I hit play maximized and then hit play, you will see that it's going to take up the entire screen. For this purpose, I'm going to keep it play focused. The other thing I want to go over is over here where it says game. You see game and then simulator. So if you actually go to simulator, it simulates a device like this is the iPad mini 4. If you click here, you get all these different devices. So iPad or iPhone, I should say, Samsung Galaxy. But if you notice, some of these things are a little out of date. So I can't remember. I think they're at a Samsung like S24 or something like that. And sorry to say, I'm not an Apple guy, so I don't know exactly where they are with Apple. But regardless, down here you'll see install additional devices. That's where you would go to get the more up-to-date devices. As well as some other devices. But this is where you would test to see what it looks like, say on a Google Pixel. So, you know, if you're building your game for mobile, you want to use simulator. But if you're building your game for Windows or Mac, you want to use game. But with that being said, let's move on to actually building the world for our character. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to our art. We are going to go to world. And we are going to find our overworld. Now, just like what we had to do with character, we're going to have to edit the overworld sprite sheet a little bit. So we're going to go up to sprite mode, make sure that says multiple again. If you remember from the video when we messed with the player, Unity 6 tries to figure out if it's multiple or single already. So if you're using an older version, you want to change this to multiple. If you're using Unity 6, then chances are it says multiple. Either way, make sure that says multiple. Pixels per unit, you want to change that to 16. Filter mode, again, point no filter, and compression, none. Hit apply. Now, since Unity 6 has made some changes, again, from the last video, if you click on Open Sprite Editor, Unity is going to try to slice this up the way it thinks it needs to be sliced up. But as you can see, it kind of just made like a whole bunch of weird slices and changes to this that don't make any sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to slice. Instead of automatic, we're going to go grid by cell size. And I don't care how big your sprites are. You want them to be 16 by 16. You're going to hit slice. You're going to click somewhere outside of there, and then you should see this nice little grid pattern. Then you're going to hit apply. Now, since there's a ton of these, it might take a minute or two for this to go through. Again, it depends on the speed of your computer, the processor, and all that fun stuff. So we'll just sit and let this go, and if I have to, I will fast forward through this. All right, so that actually didn't take very long. So now this is all sliced up, and we are ready to go on this part. Now, if you want to build an interior, there's interior settings, interior sprites that come with with the assets that I gave you guys. And again, I will have those linked down below. You can do the same thing for all of these right now if you want to. We're going to be doing that in the future anyway. But for right now, we are only going to work on overworld. So to actually begin building a world for your character, we're going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to go over to the hierarchy. We are going to right click. We are going to go to 2D object. We are going to go to tile map, and we are going to go to rectangular. So as soon as we do that, this pops up. It creates the grid for you. And then the very first thing that we're going to name this walkable. So you're actually going to have a few of these. So it's a good idea to name them something that you or people on your team are going to know what it means. I've seen people use just tiles. I've seen people use the name ground. You know, as long as you understand what it is, and as long as those working with you understand what it is, the reason why that's important is because designing and building a game takes a while. I mean, if you're building a super quick, easy 5-minute game, all right, maybe that'll take a day or two, depending on how much time you put into it. But to build a action RPG similar to The Legend of Zelda, that, you know, even if you dedicate 8+ hours a day, 7 days a week, that's still going to take time, and you may have to come back to something you've done at the very beginning, and you might go, wait, what is this? So naming it something that is recognizable and understandable is always a good thing. So now that we have that, the next thing we need to do is go to Window, go down to 2D, and we need a tile palette. So if you click on this, it's going to bring up this little window. We're going to drag that down to here. Excuse me, sorry about that. So right here it says drag tile, sprite, texture, sprite type, assets here to create a new rectangular tile palette. So in order to do that, we're going to have to undock project for a minute. It doesn't really matter where we put it. We are going to have to go to our world. We're going to find overworld right there. We're just going to drag and drop it in there. Now, as soon as you do that, it's going to ask you to put this tile palette somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to backtrack to assets. We're going to click new folder, and then we're going to do tile palette. And then hit enter. Make sure we actually go into that folder, and then hit select folder. And again, depending on the speed of your computer, this could take a minute, but it doesn't look like it's going to be very long for me. All right. With that being said and done, we're going to move project back down to here. And we'll move it to the front. All right. So now let's go back to tile palette. So we are going to make sure that all of this stuff is exactly how it looks here. And then we're going to shrink that down to here so we get a better view of what we're doing here. And the way this works, it's just like painting. So if you've used any type of Photoshop or Paint or anything similar to that, Microsoft Paint, you should be somewhat familiar with how this works. But this is your color palette essentially. You click on each one of these and it becomes what you want to paint. So we're just going to use this little grass here, and there's different types of paint brushes you can use. Like if you just use the regular paintbrush, you just click and paint. Now you notice our character disappeared. We're going to address that here right now. What we're going to do is we're going to go to player. We are going to go to sorting layer. Right here it says default. I don't know if you remember or not, but we created one that says player, I believe, in the first video. But if we didn't, you come down here, go to add sorting layer, and here's where you would create a different sorting layer. Now the way it works is whatever is on the bottom actually gets drawn last, so it ends up on top. So whatever's lowest on this list will be last to be drawn, which will actually be on top over here. So we have our player on the player sorting layer. So now that the player is on top of everything we draw here, We are gonna get a little more into that later whenever we get like different perspectives and like the ability to go behind different things and whatnot. But anyway, now that we have that fixed, you know, we can continue to regularly paint. You also have like this box paint here, this box fill. So with box fill, you just kind of click and drag and it fills all of that. That's all we're really going to need to use through most of this. You also have the flood fill. So flood fill would fill the entire thing. I don't want to do that right now. You also have your eraser where you can erase certain things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Z and back out of that, which of course is going to change my player back to the wrong sorting layer. So we'll fix that real fast. So what you want to do apparently I made Unity mad. Let's give it a second. All right, maybe this is more than a second. All right, there we go. So what you want to do is you want to start thinking about how your overall world is going to be. All right, so you can obviously make the world as big or as small as you want. I like to focus on rooms and making them, you know, certain sizes, with a few specialty rooms being a little bit bigger than the other. Right now, though, we are not going to build an entire world. We're just going to build one little area for our player to move around in and test a few things. In the coming videos, as we move along, we are going to start expanding our world and expanding our scenes. In other words, you know, being able to transition from one scene to, like, say, an interior dungeon or a castle or a house. So for now, nothing is going to be permanent. So what I want you to do is this little box right here that you see, that is your game view. I want you to build just a little outside of that. Again, we're going to be changing this later. So I would go just maybe 2 outside of that little box. Now what you can do is you can, that's really weird. All right, let's stop doing that there. See, I used the middle mouse button to click to move this around, and if you move your mouse outside of that, it gets all weird and funky. So if that happens to you, just click back down in here and it'll take care of that. So what we could do is, like, we can use different tiles to do different things. So we're going to actually build just a little bit of a path right here for the character to walk on. Actually, we'll just do that. And we'll do that. And just because it's going to bother me, I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to go all the way up to here, even though you're not going to see this right now. Again, this is just for testing purposes. This is all going to be erased and start over again in the next video. Because in the next video, we're going to go over camera movement, as well as a few other things like building the actual rooms and transitioning between them. So, for now, don't do anything crazy. If you want to start doing something crazy and you want to start building your world, hey, go right ahead. But if you're actually following along step by step with this, don't do anything too crazy yet. So now that we have this laid down, if you go to your game view, you actually see that. So whenever we hit play and this loads up, now it actually looks like our character is walking around in a game world. Still don't have camera. Again, that'll be next video. So awesome. So the next question becomes, how do we get the player to walk into something? So for instance, if we wanted to build this fence right here, you know, how can we make it so the character bumps into the fence and not just walk right over it? So there's a few things that we need to do to get that set up. The very first thing, we're already on our player. So if you're not, click on player, go over to the inspector, hit add component, and we are going to add what's called a box collider. So you want to have a box collider 2D. You're going to click on that. And then we want to go to our scene view here, and we want to zoom in on our player. As a matter of fact, if you want to get rid of all those widgets, you can just click on that for right now. We're going to zoom into our player. We're going to click right here where it says Edit Collider, that little weird looking button right there. You click on that, you're going to see this green box pop up. Now this is the box collider. So a box collider is exactly what it sounds like. It's a box that is capable of colliding into things. You can also turn the box collider into a trigger, which we will go over when we work on like hurt boxes and stuff like that. For right now, we only need this box collider. And obviously your entire player isn't going to be colliding into things, especially the entire 16 by 32 sprite here. So you see these little boxes here. What we're going to do is we're going to click and drag to roughly right about there. And then we're going to do the same from the bottom. We're going to click and drag up to about the feet. And then for the right and left, we're going to just bring those in and just kind of match the feet here. All right. So it doesn't have to be 100% perfect as I sit here and make it perfect for me. Anyway, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but you want to have it somewhere where your feet are, because you know your entire character isn't going to be colliding with things, just the feet, and you'll see why here in just a minute. But once you have that done, your player's set up for collisions. The next, real fast over here, there's all these different options for your box collider. For the purposes of right now, we should not need to mess with any of these. There's just a ton of different things here. Again, we do not need to mess with any of these right now. So let's just ignore this for right now. And instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to grid. We're going to right click. We're going to go to 2D object, tile map, and rectangular again. This one we're going to name collisions. All right. So on your tile palette, you should notice that this changed to collisions. So we don't need to do anything here because you know, all that stuff is still there. I noticed I didn't name the tile palette, so I may have to go back and change that. But nonetheless, you know, all of this stuff, your tile palette still remains the same. But if you notice up here, you have this little drop down where you can switch between walkable and collisions. So what we're going to do with collisions is we are going to just grab, I hate how this is set up to do that. I'm trying to just move. I guess I'll just use the arrow keys to move around. What we're going to do is we're just going to take this little tree here, and you can actually click and drag to make this grid a little bit bigger. And if you notice now, I'm placing the entire tree using just the regular brush here. So we're just going to place that tree there. And then what we're going to do is we are going to place this rock right there. So now that those two things are placed on collision, what we want to do, we don't do anything else. If we hit play, they don't even show up right now. Part of that is because even though they showed up when we were building it, their order in the layer is wrong. So all we need to do with that is just hit 1 and they'll pop up. Then we hit play again. They should show up now, but you're going to see something. We could still walk right over them. So even though we set up a collision, a box collider for our player, we did not set up a box collider for these guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to here and hit, well, make sure we're on collisions. We're going to come down to add component. We're going to click on that. Just start typing collider, and you will see tile map collider 2D. So you're going to click on that. The next thing you're going to add to this is a composite collider 2D. And it automatically added a rigid body on here. I don't think it's going to affect it, but you want to change gravity scale to 0 just in case. Then what we're going to do is, well, they've changed some things around. Yeah, that should be all we need to do now. It looks like they've changed all this around. There used to be some other things in here. Anyway, before I confuse myself anymore. Now let's hit play. And now... Oh, well, that's not supposed to happen. So we definitely forgot to do something here. Oh, I forgot to change the rigid body from dynamic to static. So now that it's static, we should do this again. And now they're not going to move. So now the player will be able to collide with these objects and not walk on them and walk through them. Now, if you collide with your object and you notice your character starts doing some weird, funky, like spinning disco moves or whatever, that means that under player, under the rigid body, you did not put the constraint freeze rotation Z into place. That needs to be in place. Otherwise, sometimes whenever you collide with something, your player just goes crazy. So we don't want to do that. That is it for the collision part. So what you could do with this then is you can start building a world with collisions and something for your player character to walk on. And we'll go over a little bit more of that whenever we start building the rooms of how you can restrict a player and kind of force them to go a certain path, or how they just can't walk from one room to the other without going through like a door or a pathway or things like that. So we'll get more into that on the next video, where we're also going to have the camera follow the player around. So as far as this video is concerned, we have accomplished what we were looking to accomplish. So if you liked the video, make sure you give it the big old thumbs up. As always, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, feel free to join our Discord and ask there, or you can ask in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, as I'm going to have more videos coming out on this series, as well as other plans that I have for the future for like a 2D platformer. At some point way in the future, I might do an old school Final Fantasy type game. I may or may not dive into 3D. I may just keep this a 2D channel. I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go with that. But nonetheless, make sure you subscribe and then hit that little bell so that way you get notifications anytime I release a new video. And as always, guys, have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.